Okay, good morning. We're here with Gwendolyn Grant, CEO of the Urban League of Kansas City. Gwen, thank you for joining us this morning. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start off by telling us a little bit about you. I know you're a lifelong Kansas Citian, so give us a quick birth to now of Gwen Grant.
Well, born in Kansas City, Kansas, grew up on the east side of Kansas City, Missouri. I've lived here almost all of my life. I spent 1 year in Jackson, Mississippi, where I served as the executive director of a YMCA there. Prior to taking the helm of the Urban League of Greater Kansas City, I was a YMCA professional for more than 10 years. I did some work with the Urban League. I left the Urban League for a few years and worked managing the Pioneer campus of Penn Valley Community College for about 5 years. So I did some work in higher education, and then was recruited back to the Urban League in 1995, and that's where I've been since.
That's awesome. So growing up, I did some research on you. So Westport High School.
Wow, you better not say what year.
I did. And then on to Rockhurst College.
Yeah, well, I went to, graduated from Westport. I did a couple of years at MU, dropped out of college and didn't like it there. And for a number of reasons, one of the primary reasons being during that time, the University of Missouri had a Confederate rock that sat in the middle of campus, and a lot of racism on campus. I came back to Kansas City and actually went to work for a while, and then completed my education basically as a working mom and wife. Completed my college degree at Park University, and for my undergrad in business administration, and then graduated in 98, I believe it was, from Rockhurst University with an executive MBA in the Executive Fellows Program at Rockhurst.
Great program, great program. So you've been the CEO and president of the Urban League for quite a while. So tell me what you enjoy about that. I mean, you've held that position and you've done some great things for the city. Tell us about your position and why you enjoy that.
Well, I believe that I'm someone who has taught a lot, has done a lot of work in leadership development, and believe strongly that we each come here with our gifts and talents to share, and that when we know our purpose, we are so much more effective when we are able to work towards our purpose or our calling in life. And I believe that I was called to this work, so I am blessed to be able to get up every day and actually earn a living doing something that brings me spiritual joy. And I enjoy it because even though it is a very challenging role to play, it's very difficult and oftentimes lonely and stressful, being at the head of a civil rights organization, an organization that is really, our work is not about creating comfort. It's truly about pushing the envelope and fighting for change. And so that's typically, we don't usually get to that space with everyone coming to the table like, gee, yes, I want to give up my power, and yes, I want to change. Let's do this. It's typically the exact opposite. So I enjoy, what brings me joy about my work is on those rare occasions when, well, I guess they're probably much more plentiful than I really remember often, is that those moments when I hear from a parent or a student about the impact that the Urban League has had on their lives, or when someone tells me that someone in their family got their first job through the Urban League, or when we hear from people, who really appreciate the fact that but for the Urban League, they would not have the opportunities that they enjoy in life and the freedom or the access that civil rights organizations help to provide through our advocacy. And so, that's why I do it every day. That's what makes me happy about the work, and is pretty much the outcomes that we're able to achieve on behalf of the community, on behalf of the people we serve. So I believe that, my role as a leader is really to serve and not to be served, to lift up our community, to open up doors of access and opportunity for Blacks, and to help them to be ready to walk through those doors prepared to excel and to achieve their hopes and dreams.
That's awesome. That's great work. And you've done great things for the community for a long, long time. So you talked a little bit about, you grew up in Kansas City, moved to Jackson for a while, came back. What makes Kansas City home? What do you love about Kansas City?
Well, it's home. I have my family here. Well, now I don't, my daughter and grandchildren are not here, so that's not great, but
where are they live?
Atlanta. Yeah, Atlanta, Georgia. Yes. So my daughter went to school in Atlanta. I am certain that she made her college choice based on where she wanted to live, more so than the university that she selected. She applied only for, at universities in Atlanta. So that I was like, okay, I get it, because I thought surely you'll, why not apply, at Yale? What about, somewhere in California? What about this? She was a graduate of Lincoln College Preparatory Academy, so she was a advanced placement, international baccalaureate student. So she had options, but she made her choice based on she wanted to live in Atlanta, and she hasn't come back. So she went to college and she's never lived in Kansas City since.
So what are the things that you really love about Kansas City?
I love the people. I love my, being here with family, with friends. I love, it's almost like a love-hate kind of thing. The very things that I love about Kansas City, I also don't like about Kansas City is that the nice, easy thing, kind of easygoing, but I think we're a bit too laid back when it comes to change, that, especially as it relates to our fight for racial equity and social justice. I think we need to be much more aggressive about those things. And Kansas City has this, this kind of nice, let's all get along thing on the surface, when in fact, there's conflict brewing beneath the surface that, if we address, can be positive for us rather than negative. But I love the food, probably too much. We have great food, and I do enjoy that. I enjoy, I think we have a beautiful city. I mean, we have too much probably land mass. It's hard to manage all of it, but it's beautiful. I love the plaza. I love the 18th and Vine Historic Jazz District, which is near my office. I don't know, Kansas City's home. It's what's not to love about home.
Right. So do you own your own home now?
Well, yes, I own a home. I currently am not living in it. I am an urban dweller. I'm in a loft here in the inner city, in a here on Troost. But I do own a home in South Kansas City that I'm about to put on the market.
All right. Well, tell us about that experience when you purchased your home and you raised your kids in your home. What does home mean to you?
Well, I think it's certainly when we purchased our home, that was a huge accomplishment, achievement, and certainly one of those things that growing up you aspire to do is to own your own home. When I grew up, my mother, we owned our home. My mother owned our home, and actually at one point had two homes, on the east side. I always just assumed that I would own a home someday. And so we purchased our home and raised our daughter there. And now I've moved on. I am divorced, so in the process of putting the house on the market.
Okay. And what is being a homeowner? Do you think that changes your life? What does it do for you socially, economically, that kind of stuff? Do you see differences there?
Well, absolutely. Home ownership, unfortunately, there are so many, the inequities relative to home ownership for Blacks in America, and it certainly holds true for Blacks in Kansas City. When we published our 2019 State of Black Kansas City report, the data revealed that only about 43% of Blacks in Kansas City own a home. And home ownership is a pathway to wealth building for a family. It is an opportunity, especially if you're coming out of poverty, it's a pathway to middle class. If you can, get to a place of home ownership, it provides an opportunity to leverage that property values to, start a business if you desire. So it's critically important, and we need to be doing a lot more to increase the levels of home ownership amongst the African American and Latinx communities in the greater Kansas City area.
Totally agree with that. So what do you think is the basis for that? Why do you think so many Latinos and the Black community don't purchase homes?
Well, the reason for that is that you have to look at the system, the loan denial rates, high denial rates, basically the systemic racism, not only in banking and finance, but also in the real estate industry. So you cannot deny that history, which from redlining through banking policies, through the manner in which real estate agents who play a major role in helping an individual or a couple to own a home. I mean, the real estate industry can be a barrier, or it can be a conduit for home ownership. And so the problem is a racist system that has to be addressed and challenged. So yeah, there are many Black people and brown people who are capable of owning a home, but I think, these barriers have to be removed.
Totally agree. And I think one of the things we look at from that perspective is education is so important. We started a Latino initiative about 2.5 years ago. We got together our Latino agents, 20 or so of those that are really have a concerted effort to do some education in the community, to talk about how you purchase a home, what kind of things you need to do, how do you build credit, also to build that trust within the community, because the same thing happens in the Black community, and we've done the same thing for the last 18 months with about 20 of our Black agents that want to show everybody how they can build wealth, how they can do that. But I think the first step in that is building trust with the community and saying, we are here for you. We want you to trust us, and we want to show you the path to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense, but that I don't think that is enough. I mean, I think it's important that that real estate agents are educated. It's important that the community, individuals who want to own homes are also educated on how to navigate, the home buying market, to, how do you build your credit profile so that you can secure underwriting. But you also have to look at how the system is designed. Still, when we do all of that, there are the huge inequities. Blacks were, the predatory lending that takes place in the home in home buying. I mean, it's like higher interest rates because you're Black. So even being Black, middle class, good credit, still, when you look at when, there have been studies that have proven that you send a white person in and a Black person in, same profile, the Black person is going to get a higher interest rate. Those types of things that are inherent in the system, that are embedded in the system, that have to be addressed. So that ends up costing this family a lot more for a home, that also then dealing with even the valuation that's placed on the home after it's purchased and owned by a Black person. If it's in, that kind of gets back to a different type of redlining today than we had in the past. So those things have to be addressed. Just to say we need to educate the community so that they know more. And you can educate me all day long, but if I don't have access to the right information, that I'm not getting access to the best interest rates, I'm not being shown houses that are higher value that I could possibly afford because because someone's coming with a biased mindset about where they believe I should live or can live. So there's so much more in this process that needs to be addressed. And, so if you're going to educate, that education needs to be rich in the history that got us here and how that intersects with the realities that we're living today that are pretty much the vestiges of that. And it even continues today. I mean, I was just doing, some research as well in preparation for this conversation, and certainly was pleased to see that the new leadership of the National Association of Realtors is saying that this, this professionals organization, certainly he didn't use the language of reparations, but from my perspective, if we're going to get to much more to close these disparity gaps in Black and Brown home ownership, then we need some reparations with regard to the system. How does it repair to make amends to close this gap? If only 42.6% of Blacks in Kansas City own homes, something fundamentally different, something so much more aggressive needs to take place if we truly want to arrive at equity. And so education is a good start. It's very important, but it's going to take a number of factors to close the gap. It has to be accelerated. We can't remediate and expect to get a different outcome.
Right. So do you have any ideas on that? What are the next steps? You have education, and what are the next steps? How do we become more inclusive? I mean, we've got a stable of vendors, both from a mortgage perspective. Insurance is another one. We need to protect people with insurance that we know are going to treat people fairly. What else do we need to be looking at doing?
Well, I think these systems were put in place. The systems are functioning very well. They're getting the exact outcome that they were designed to get. So if you want to get a different outcome, you're going to have to redesign the system. And so so that means actually challenging the various systems, all these things that are in place. Are they really necessary? What changes can be made to make it a lot easier for Black and Brown people to get a mortgage than they, because some of these things, are they truly necessary? Do they truly say that this person is going to be either going to not default on this loan or not? I mean, it's a matter of challenging these systems and putting in alternative systems and structures to get a different outcome. And it doesn't mean lowering a standard, it's questioning the standard. Is it truly necessary? Is it truly necessary? And then, there are certainly, I believe there will probably be, there are a number of programs out there where the folks are looking at making adjustments in terms of what the credit score needs to be at this level to qualify or whatever. Because if you're even just looking at credit scoring in and of itself, that came, before credit scoring, you had banking relationships that meant something.
Right.
You had a person could demonstrate that they're going to consistently pay their bills on time and have income that shows, yes, the income to debt ratio is here, they can do that. Now it's all based on some scoring, based on something where they don't even take into consideration, in many cases, just in terms of your overall credit score. I don't see them factoring in how much actual cash on hand the individual has. How much money do they have in a savings account? What is their annual income? They may have a high debt load, but they can sustain that debt load. But the credit score doesn't say that. The credit score says, oh yeah, they pay everything on time, but because they have a lot of credit over here, that score is going to be this. So a lot of that stuff is like, where did that come from? What it does is creates an opportunity for lenders to charge you more for borrowing money based on some, as far as I'm concerned, some stuff somebody pulled out of a hat so that they could make more money. And so if you want to create an opportunity for people to own more homes and to get their credit profiles, let's look at that. Look at that. I mean, I just think that there's a start, but that's by having the courage to challenge a system, to ask the tough questions, to put that system on trial for its survival. And that means like, okay, prove that this is necessary.
Right, right. What about, what do you think, how familiar do you think the Black community is with Reese Nichols, and what do they think of Reese Nichols? Is there any preconceived notions, or do you think there's anything out there that?
Well, I mean, you have you can, the Nichols part of that connection doesn't help you any, right? And I think the perception about the real estate industry, be it Reese Nichols or whatever, is the real estate industry has a whole lot to overcome relative to past practices and policies and the way that the major role that the real estate industry has played in contributing to Kansas City's segregation. And that's just, I don't think that any one real estate agency over another bears, the brunt of that. I think that, it's just from a Black perspective, let me put it in the context of the Urban League and how we historically, we established an organization called the Newcomers Organization, or a club that we had in the Urban League, goes way back. And this was formed for Black people who were relocating to the Kansas City area. And so that they could find through the Urban League the connections, the supports that they needed to make this adjustment in relocating to come and work. Then they were coming here to work at AT&T, then was all like Southwestern Bell, a number of these industries where, that were hiring people of color, and they would relocate here. And then the real estate, like they would be, get a lot of negative information about living in the inner city or, or being an urban dweller, which is like, to me, I'm so excited to be back out of, away from the suburbs and back in the city, as a Black person now. I'm like, I love having my house, but I love being in the city around, where, I didn't like suburban life as much as I like urban. But what they would do, is steer these people if they had children and family. Well, you don't want to live in here, you want to live over here, or they would find they're not being shown, the types of property that they could afford and would want to purchase as investment property. So there was all of this discrimination then, and if they followed the guidance of the real estate agents, they found themselves out in suburban areas, cut off from the Black community, feeling disconnected. Because Kansas City is so large in land mass, we can be spread out. And being a minority in this community, you can live out in a suburban area and seldom see anyone who looks like yourself. And so we had to form this organization to bring, to provide that base, that support for them. And so our experiences with the real estate industry haven't really been great, and we still even hear that, in contemporary times where folks get, like, oh, you should live in Johnson County, you should do this, the schools over here are bad, when in fact there are a number of high quality schools in KCPS, in their charter schools and other schools that are located in the central city that provide high quality education outcomes for our children. And as I stated, my daughter graduated from Lincoln College Prep, which is one of the top schools at the time in the country, right here in the heart of the inner city. So I'm sorry if that was too long of an answer.
Oh, that's perfect. One of the things that I think, as we look at diversity and inclusion, this kind of is a little bit counterintuitive, but I don't think it really is. People want, and you said it, people want to be with people like them, whether that's because they like country western music, or because they're African American, or because they're Latino, because of that culture. But also people want to work with people like that. And one of our struggles is sourcing more Black people to become real estate. I mean, real estate agents make a lot of money, right? I mean, it's all commission, so it's a steep learning curve to get there. But how can we work together with the Urban League to source more people, to give them really good jobs? And maybe part of that is scholarships that we'll offer to people to get them started. How can we work together to source more of those people, so those people can provide both education, but also to combat some of the things you just talked about? Like, we need to show people the entire city and let them make the decision where they want to live.
Yes, yes. And, so I think we can certainly have that conversation. I'd be very interested in having that conversation to explore how to get to that place where we have more Black and brown realtors, because they will be more likely to actually, bridge that divide and support individuals in finding the home, to live where they want to live, and not be, steered away from that. I mean, and to be supported in being able to, get the underwriting, get approved, and all of that. And the real estate agent plays a major role in that. I mean, I remember when we purchased our home, the experience that we had was we had a really good real estate agent who worked with us from start to finish, gave us all kind of information about, okay, here's what you're going to have to do here, so that when we get to this point, you won't have this problem. This is what we need to do here. Let's talk. So we went into it with someone working side by side with us every step of the way for us to buy our first home. We had no experience in this space. My husband was a veteran, so we were able to, use that as a means of getting, the support of him using his veterans benefits. But we had someone working with us who could do that. So yeah, we would love to have the conversation about how to collaborate or how to partner on doing that. It certainly aligns with our mission. The pathway to economic self-reliance is home ownership.
Right.
So, sure.
And that pathway also, I mean, and that pathway eventually leads to inclusion and having everybody together. And I think the only way to do that, yes, we can have diversity in our ranks and be able to someday have people show people houses all over the city. But I think the first step of that is we've got to get people to trust us. And if we can work with you guys to find more Black agents that give them opportunities, let them see the joy that you can have. I mean, you talked a little bit about when you bought your first house and how the feeling you have, well, I've got something that's mine, and that's where I'm going to raise my family and my daughter. And that type of joy goes right through to the agent. And so it's a very rewarding profession when you do it right, like as your agent did for you. There's always stories on the other side, but I'm always glad to hear that a real estate agent treated you with respect and gave you that knowledge that you needed to purchase that home. So, all right, you've been in Kansas City, you've been in charge of the Urban League for a long time. Way down the road, how would you like to be remembered? What are 3 adjectives that people will remember you by?
Authentic, courageous, and passionate.
Those are awesome.
Yeah.
They're really awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, you asked for 3 adjectives and you don't want me to elaborate on those, or?
Well, you can go right ahead. Yes.
Well, I mean, I think that I think people know me as someone who is honest almost to a fault. I don't abide lying. I don't tell people what they want to hear. I tell the truth and as I see it, and hold folks to that same standard. It's like, you know, the truth is so important, and so I'm just someone who believes in authenticity, and I think it also speaks to a person's character and integrity, just to be authentic, no matter, you know. And so that courageous in that, you know, it's not courage is not the absence of fear. I encounter a number of challenges and especially in this work, and it doesn't mean that I'm operating without fear. It's just that I find within me the courage or the strength to push past the fear, to do what I believe needs to be done on behalf of, you know, in fighting for racial equity and social justice. And then I'm very passionate about my work, and I'm passionate about what I believe in. And sometimes that passion shows up, especially for African Americans, is we're very passionate in our communication and all of that, and that can come across to many as, you know, like being labeled as aggressive or, you know, angry, when in fact it's just passion. So those 3 things.
Those are awesome, and they're great. And I think from everything that I've read about you, I think those are qualities that people already believe about you. And you've done so many great things for Kansas City, and you continue to do those. I hope we can continue our relationship. I'd love to come down and have a meeting with some of our Black agents to talk about what you're doing.
Have you had a shot?
I've had 2.
Me too, then we can get together.
The second one I got a little woozy on. I didn't feel good, but I've got my 2 and I'm good. So yeah, I would love to do. And we've got some great agents that are carrying this flag for us, that are really passionate about showing people both from how to be a real estate agent and why buying a house is so important. And they're really leading the charge for us. So I'd love to sit down and do that with you and strategize about how we can make a difference, because you're exactly right. We're going to have to change the whole process and get people to realize that this is a great city. I've lived here all my life, just like you. And I want people to understand how great it is and how much better it can be if we can be more inclusive and help people with home ownership of all colors.
I think it would be great. So let's make it happen.
Okay.
We can do it.
Perfect. Well, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And we'll talk soon, and enjoy the rest of the week and be safe.
Same to you. The pleasure was all mine.
All right. Bye-bye now.